Is it true that today's children don't listen to their parents? And if so, why? Is it the kids that are different, or today's parenting is different? Yeah, today's parenting is different, even from just a generation ago. Children have never been so included or had their feelings so consistently heard and considered. Never before have we given our children so much room to be themselves. That's amazing. We're also closer to our children than ever before. We don't want them to fear us. We work so hard to not disappoint, anger, or frustrate them, because it's not only important to us they're happy. We want them to be happy with us. Complete and total obedience is only achieved through fear and distance. In a lot of ways, that's what parenting used to be, and we changed that to have closeness and intimacy with our children, to be there for them, but also with them in everything. We changed the system, but maybe we didn't fully understand what it means. You want your child to feel respected and empowered. That's why you encourage them to express themselves and have choices. But at the same time, you expect obedience, and immediately, the first time you ask. See the contradiction or the confusion? You've given your child a voice, but you want to dictate how and when they use it. A main source of frustration in today's families is that the question of who is in charge of what, when, and why swings from children to parents and back to children in such disarray, creating the imbalance and even the chaos you feel. I want you to know that today's parenting can work really well and benefit you and your children exactly the way you want it to. But in this case, we need to reframe some ideas. For instance, this one, why aren't you listening to me? With, we need to learn to work better together, to cooperate, collaborate, and yes, sometimes even to comply. The system today is that you, the parent, are not in a position of threat to your children, but in the role of strong and positive leadership they trust and look up to. Think of it also as everyone in your family having a good job description, so the roles are clear. Any job requires knowledge, skills, practice, effort, and experience, all of which you, the parent, already have for this particular job as a parent. But your children are in the process of acquiring with time and with your guidance and role modeling. Because what any good system needs to function well is a solid structure of who is in charge of what, when, why, and how. So how do we get there? 1. Yes and no questions are not what you think they are. Notice how many yes, no questions you ask your child in a day, in an hour. Should we clean up now? Are you ready to eat? Want to go outside? Ready for bath? Is it bedtime? All these questions leave room for your child to answer yes or no. And I know you're doing that to be respectful and teach them to have a voice. But really, you expect them to agree with you. And when they aren't, you are surprised, upset, or left with no choice yourself. So, if it's not a question for them to answer, don't ask. You can still be respectful, even when you just make statements. Almost cleanup time, we're going to have lunch, time for a bath, it's bedtime. 2. Make your children aware of all the choices they already are making by simply pointing out to them when they do so, not just because you gave them a choice, but also because choices and options simply do exist and naturally throughout their day. A toy they pick up to play with, an activity they initiate, even a conversation or a question they bring up to discuss because they want to. Help them become aware of all the decisions they're making each day on their own so they recognize the power they do have and build on it a good sense of self. 3. Categorize choices and decisions this way. What are child's decisions? What are parents' decisions? Big, long-term, complex decisions are parental. You create the boundary, the parameter within it. Show your child the many choices they can still make. Of course, according to age, maturity, and skill level, sometimes a situation. For example, perhaps you are deciding what is for dinner. Your child can decide how much of it they want to eat, and yes, even how to enjoy the meal. You decide it is bedtime. Your child can choose to disagree, be upset. That does not change your decision. They can also find their own ways to help themselves go to sleep, like think of the day they had, things they want to do tomorrow, or use imagination to escape. 4. Some things we have to do, some we want to. You can even make visual lists. Change it according to age and abilities. I have to brush my teeth, clean up my toys, wash my hands, go to school, etc. I want to play, watch TV, see my friends. Try to have a balance between them, but also help your child rethink the list. For children, what they have to feels like a huge burden. What they want to, freedom. But you can teach the concept of responsibility, which is actually the combination of both. Responsibility is doing what we have to, even when we don't want to, but then it actually feels good, as in, I did it, even though at first I didn't want to. So ask your child from time to time, do you always have to brush your teeth, go to school, even clean up? Or do you sometimes want to? The more responsibilities you can remove from the have to the want to, the lighter, better you feel about doing them. 5. No remote control parenting. Don't yell from the other room unless you're sure your child will turn the screen off on command. Otherwise, walk over, use touch, eye contact, close proximity to tell them what they need to do. And let them know you're there to help them get through the doing, which can feel hard for them. Stay calm, be firm when you say, we need to cooperate now, and remind them, we're working here together, even if we don't always agree or are not in charge of the same thing. And lastly, be realistic. There is no magic trick to making your children listen to you on command, or to you not repeating yourself. And yes, it's work in progress, and it is constant. After all, this is what you want for your children, not to be good little robots, but independent, confident, free, and expressive thinkers. So you're not a bad parent when your child tests you, defies you, questions you. And of course, they are not bad children when they do any of it. It's actually what they're supposed to do. You need to accept they don't know everything yet, even when they want to express how they feel about everything. And you are still in charge of all they can't be in charge of yet. And it is challenging, but you got this.